We spend so much time talking about algorithms and data, but what if the biggest hurdle to AI success isn't the tech at all? What if it's the people? Well, today we're diving into a leader's playbook for AI adoption, and spoiler alert, it's all about the conversations you have. Let's jump right in. Okay, so look at this number 80%. Let that sink in for a second. Now you might be thinking, what is that? Is that the failure rate of AI projects? Nope. Cost overruns? Not that either. 80%, well, that's the human part of the whole puzzle. And that brings us to the core idea of this whole thing. AI implementation, it's like 20% about the actual technology and a whopping 80% about the humans who are supposed to use it. Think about that. Your success isn't going to hinge on the fanciest algorithm. It's all about the conversations you have with your team. Get the people part right, and believe me, the tech part gets a whole lot easier. All right, I know what you're thinking. 21 conversations? That sounds overwhelming, right? Like, where do you even start? But don't sweat it. We've broken it all down. We've organized them into a super simple 4-part playbook to make this whole thing feel way less daunting. So here's the game plan. First, we're going to talk about laying your strategic foundation. Then we'll get into the really important stuff, winning over your people. Part 3 is all about building a support system, and we'll wrap up with how to make the change actually stick. Simple as that. Ready? Let's do this. All right, part 1, laying your strategic foundation. Look, before you can get anyone else on board, you have to be rock solid on the why and the how yourself. This is all about getting your own strategy straight before you even whisper the word implementation to the team. So, in this section, we're going to zero in on 3 really crucial talks. First, connecting AI to your actual business goals. Second, figuring out what success really looks like. And third, and this one's a biggie, getting super honest about the quality of your data. So let me ask you a question. How are you actually going to measure success? Is it just turning the thing on and making sure it doesn't crash? Is 99% uptime the goal? Because if that's what you're thinking, well, you're missing the bigger picture. And this is where it gets really interesting. This is all about measuring what matters. Sure, technical uptime is important. It's like the bare minimum. But look at the other bars. We're talking about employee adoption rate. Are people actually using it? And even more important, decision quality. Is this tool helping your team make better, smarter decisions? That's where the real ROI is, Okay, so your strategy is set. Now for the hard part. And the most important part. Part 2, winning over your people. This is all about rolling up your sleeves and having those direct, human-to-human conversations to build trust and, frankly, to tackle fear head-on. And the key conversations here? Well, first, you've got to deal with the job fears. You just have to. Then it's about demystifying the technology, cutting through the hype. And maybe most crucial of all, you need to create a clear skills evolution roadmap for everyone. Let's just say it. This is the question, the one that's on everyone's mind, even if they're not saying it out loud. Will AI replace me? It's the elephant in the room, and you absolutely cannot ignore it. You can't give a vague corporate speak answer. You have to hit this one straight on, and you need a concrete plan. And here's exactly how you do that. You create what's called a skills evolution roadmap. It's brilliant. First, you take stock of the skills your team has right now. Step 2, you map those skills to what future AI-powered roles are going to look like. And step 3, you give them the training, the resources, the clear learning paths to get from here to there. See what that does? It takes all that fear and anxiety and turns it into a clear, actionable plan. Now, when it's time to talk about the tech itself, there's a right way and a wrong way. What you want to avoid is all that technical jargon that goes over everyone's head, or all the crazy, unrealistic hype. What you should do is use real, concrete examples. Show them how it's going to help with their Tuesday morning report. And be honest about what it can't do. That's how you build real, informed enthusiasm, instead of setting people up for disappointment. All right, moving on to part 3, building a support system. Because look, having good conversations is awesome, but it's not enough. You also need to build the scaffolding around your people, the structures that actually help them get through this change. So how do you do that? Well, a few key things. You need to build an army of what we'll call AI champions. You absolutely have to create a risk-free space for people to practice. And yeah, to make mistakes. And you've got to set up a way to get continuous feedback. This makes it feel like a team effort, not just a top-down order.
Let's dig into that AI champion idea for a second, because it's really powerful. We're not talking about a manager or some official role. Think about your team. You know who I'm talking about. It's that person who's naturally excited, the one who's always tinkering with new stuff. That's your champion. If you empower them, you get this incredible trusted peer support system that no formal memo could ever achieve.
And this next one is just as important. People need a sandbox, a safe space to play. Why? Because nobody wants to look stupid. Nobody wants to be the one who breaks the new expensive system. When you give them a place where they can practice, make mistakes, and build confidence without any real-world consequences, you take away that fear. And that's a game changer for adoption. Okay, we're on to the final stretch. Part 4, making the change stick. This is the long game. This isn't about just launching a project. It's about fundamentally changing how you work and making sure this new way of doing things becomes a permanent part of your company's DNA. And to make it stick, you need 3 things. 1, a consistent communication plan. Don't just announce it and go silent. 2, you need to be prepared for resistance because it will happen. And 3, you have to actively build new team habits around this new technology. But let's talk about that resistance piece because it's huge. You know it's coming. Someone's going to dig their heels in. So the question is, what do you actually do when that happens? Okay, this table is basically your cheat sheet for handling resistance. The key is knowing that not all resistance is the same, right? So if it's based on fear of losing their job, you lead with empathy and you pull out that skills roadmap we talked about earlier. But what if it's knowledge-based? What if they have a genuinely good point about the data being flawed? Well, then you don't dismiss it. You treat that as incredibly valuable feedback. The point is, once you understand why they're resisting, you can turn what looks like a problem into a way to make your whole project better. Phew. Okay, that was a lot, I know. We've gone through a whole 4-part playbook. We've talked strategy, people, support systems, the whole shebang. So after all that, the most practical question is, with 21 different conversations, where in the world do you start? And I love the answer here because it's so simple and so actionable. You don't try to do it all at once. That's a recipe for disaster. Instead, just do this. Identify the 3, just 3, most urgent conversations for your team right now. Then pull out your calendar and schedule them for this week. That's it. Just start the conversation. Because at the end of the day, that's really what this is all about. Your massive AI transformation, it doesn't start with a piece of technology. It doesn't start with a purchase order. It begins, quite simply, with your very next conversation.